So all 6 episodes of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier are now out, so I'm here to give my thoughts on the show as a whole. Similarly to WandaVision, this show excels at developing its 2 protagonists, especially Sam. His journey to becoming Captain America is really well executed, and I loved all the scenes shared between him and Isaiah Bradley. Seeing Sam grapple with what the shield represents to so many different people, and what it would mean for a black man to be holding the shield, is really compelling stuff, and this internal struggle makes the payoff of seeing him don the stars and stripes in the finale all the more satisfying. I also like that this show takes the time to show us Sam's life outside of being an Avenger. One of the main subplots in this superhero spy espionage series involves the hero trying to renovate his family's boat, and I think that's pretty cool. Also, quick side note, I think that Sam is the only Avenger shown to have a sibling in this universe who isn't also an Avenger, which is kinda weird if you think about it. Bucky also gets some much needed character development here. In the films prior to this show, they only ever seem to use Bucky as a plot device to create conflict between Steve and those around him, and as a result I struggled to really get invested in him as a character. For the first time in this franchise, Bucky's trauma from being the Winter Soldier is actually explored in some detail. I really like the subplot where he has to make amends with Mr. Nakajima, although if I had to nitpick, I wish the scene between them in the finale just went on a little bit longer. It's still good stuff though. Overall, the show is at its best in these quiet dialogue scenes. The ending of episode 5, where Sam and Bucky finally settle their differences while casually tossing the shield around, is a perfect example of this. It's in these moments when the story justifies being told in a miniseries format rather than as a film, as it isn't afraid to take time to humanise its characters. As for the rest of the cast, Baron Zemo stole absolutely every single scene that he was in. Going in, I assumed he was going to be one of the main antagonists of the series, so I guess you could say the show subverted my expectations in that regard. Having Zemo form an uneasy alliance with Sam and Bucky was a stroke of genius. He just brings this wacky, chaotic energy to the show, and seeing him play off of the other characters was a lot of fun. Sharon Carter, on the other hand, was kind of the worst. The reveal that she's a power broker falls completely flat because there's no other major character in the show that it could possibly be. Like, it's not going to be Sam or Bucky. We're given no reason to believe Walker could be behind it. We're told the power broker wants to kill Carly, so it can't be her, and Zemo hates super soldiers, so it wasn't going to be him either. Even when you consider this, the twist doesn't even make a lot of sense. Like, if Sharon is the power broker, then why would she lead Baron Zemo, a known terrorist who has murdered multiple super soldiers, to the doorstep of the man she hired to make super soldier serum, and later she acts surprised that Zemo killed this man? Like, what did she think was going to happen? Also, another quick side note, I find it funny in the finale when Sam tells Bucky that he's brought backup and it turns out to just be Sharon. Like, surely 6 super soldiers attacking New York would warrant at least one more Avenger. Don Cheadle was literally in the first episode, why didn't you give him a call? As for the new characters, John Walker was one of the best aspects of the show, until the finale at least. I love the idea of a government-appointed Captain America who is everything that Steve and Sam aren't. He's short-tempered, arrogant, impulsive, and believes the mantle gives him superiority over others. Basically a perfect soldier, not a good man. He's a character who's sympathetic, but also completely insufferable, and because of this it felt like the show could take him in any direction they wanted after those first 3 episodes. At that time, I could see an ending where Walker, completely crushed by the weight of expectation, finally lets his ego go and surrenders the shield to Sam willingly, as much as I could see an ending where he goes off the deep end and Sam has to take the shield by force. And then episode 4 sees Walker brutally murder a surrendering man in the view of the public, and this really felt like a point of no return for the character when I first saw it. The shot of Walker holding the blood-drenched shield is chilling. Honestly, it's one of my favourite moments from the show. We're told the super soldier serum enhances what you already are, so Walker should become even more arrogant, impulsive and violent, especially without Lamar to keep him in check, and especially after episode 5 when he's stripped of the mantle and lies to Lamar's parents. I assumed the finale would feature Walker killing Carly and potentially becoming the show's main antagonist. But no, instead they make him a good guy out of nowhere who quips with our heroes. Like, where the hell did that come from? In episode 5, Walker attempted to murder both Sam and Bucky, and they broke his arm and took off with the shield. You would think there would be a bit of animosity there, right? But no, he's basically Bucky's sidekick, and for once he actually starts to make heroic decisions. which at this point feels pretty out of character. The show honestly made him too unlikable to redeem, at least immediately. If we were shown anything to suggest that Walker may change his ways before the finale, then maybe it could have worked, but we got nothing. He just shows up, is suddenly best friends with Bucky, and then he unlocks an alt skin at the end. Cool. This is made even worse by the fact that the actual main villains are kind of boring. Their motivations are pretty vague and inconsistent. Like, we're told time and time again that they want to get the world back to how it was immediately after purple Josh Brolin killed half the population. But we as an audience are never shown why things were better then. We only ever see the 5 years during Endgame, and it looks depressing and miserable. Another problem is that they barely feature in the first half of the season, so they're not really established as a legitimate threat until later on. In the first 2 episodes, we don't even see them doing anything that bad. They're just stealing stuff and giving it to displaced people. Like, they're hardly an Avengers level threat at this point. Like, the only reason Zemo is broken out of prison is because Bucky deduces that they're super soldiers. It's nothing to do with the Flag Smashers' cause or actions or anything. Then all of a sudden in episode 3, Carly just starts murdering innocent people, and it feels really out of character given what we've seen of her previously. And just like Walker, we aren't shown anything to explain this sudden change. I think the show was trying to make her a more Killmonger-esque villain, but they just wrote her too inconsistently, and thus they didn't stick the landing. It's frustrating because there's certainly potential there. I think the scenes where Sam is trying to talk to Carly and de-escalate things are really good. Between Carly, Walker and Sharon, I think this show is just held back by characters deciding to completely change their personality and morals off screen. The thing is, it's harder to forgive the Flag Smashers because they're central to the plot. It's them that kick everything into motion. So if they don't work, then the show's main plotline kind of falls apart. Remember when I said the show's at its best when characters are just talking and ignoring the plot? This is a big part of the reason why. I don't care about the Flag Smashers one way or the other, and as a result, the more plot heavy scenes can be a real drag. Unlike Captain America the Winter Soldier, which this show is trying to replicate elements of, there's no mysteries, no twists and turns, except for the awful power broker twist, and that's really disappointing. At least the action is fine. I have some issues with how some of the scenes are shot and edited, and there's times where attacks don't feel like they have enough weight behind them, but generally it's pretty serviceable. The canyon scene that opens the show is a highlight, as is the fight between Sam, Bucky and Walker. Plus, the Rocky-esque training montage at the end of episode 5 is pretty great too. Overall, I thought the show was pretty solid. It disappointed me with its plot, but really surprised me with its character development and willingness to tackle real-world issues, and how it dealt with the ramifications of the snap for regular people. I wouldn't mind a season 2 or a follow-up film to this, because I like this core of characters for the most part. I just wish they were in a more interesting narrative. Also, more Don Cheadle next time. Okay, bye.